having me here. It's a huge pleasure to be part of MedTech World this year. And first, I would like you to imagine how safe and peaceful we would feel about ourselves, our loved ones, our children, our parents that are getting older, if there is something that, even in the comfort of our home, can basically monitor about the status of our health and notify us about any problems before they appear on the surface. My name is Georgi Kadrev, and I'm part of the team of Kelvin Health, and our mission is to make preventable deaths and suffering from conditions like critical limb ischemia, breast cancer, rheumatoid arthritis a thing of the past by applying the power of mobile thermography and AI. But first, let me start with a few stories. This is my father-in-law, Hugh, and in 2018, shortly before my son was born, he was diagnosed with peripheral arterial disease and nearly lost his leg. This was a complication because of diabetes. Unfortunately, there are more than 200 million people like Hugh worldwide that suffer from peripheral arterial disease, and because of the hard access to diagnostics, more than 20 million, which by the way is more than the average population of a whole European country, develop critical limb ischemia. This is a very hideous condition that first takes your limb, then kills you in less than 5 years in almost half of the cases. This is Blaga, 20 years old, very creative business lady. She was diagnosed with breast cancer 3 years ago. Happily, after the surgical operations on her 2 breasts, she is now in remission, but still for the rest of her life, she needs to be monitored. Unfortunately, 1 in every 8 women that we know is going to develop breast cancer at a certain stage of their life. And this is just an illustration of a photo of a friend of mine. She actually has 7 children, and she suffers from rheumatoid arthritis. But because she has been breastfeeding for most of her life, she cannot take severe medications. Unfortunately, more than 14 million people worldwide suffer from rheumatoid arthritis, which is currently not curable, and there's no way to measure the inflammation of this autoimmune nature. So, coming back to the peripheral arterial disease problem, why is actually happening? This is Professor 𝐂𝐻𝐝-𝐻𝐿. He's the head of cardiology and angiology of City Clinic. And typically, his team is booked months ahead. When the patient finally arrives at them, they're super busy, and the patients have been misdiagnosed with orthopedic or neurological problem. Because of the severity of the potential conditions and because of the low throughput of patients, it's hard to get diagnostics on time. So 2 years ago, provoked by the COVID-19 pandemic actually, we thought, can we utilize our experience in machine learning and image recognition and build a diagnostic solution as simple as a thermal camera, actually a thermal camera the size of that can be attached to the mobile phone, capture the heat of the body, detect local anomalies, and eventually notify the specialist if there are certain types of problems. This can actually be staying in your bathroom or bedroom and can proactively monitor about your health and take pictures when you're with your clothes off or at least part of your clothing off to detect certain types of anomalies. So why this whole concept is possible? Our local body temperature is directly related to blood flow. And if we have some anomalies in our blood flow, there's a relatively limited number of reasons why this might happen. This might be an inflammation, increased metabolism as in cancerous diseases, spasm, or blockage of the actual vascular system. We decided to explore the application in the first of those therapeutic areas that are very natural for the application of mobile thermography AI. And with the team of the same professor, Professor 𝐂𝐻𝐝-𝐻𝐿, we witnessed that Kelvin can actually be as telling about severe blockage in the lower extremity, in the legs, as the X-ray angiography, which is very invasive. It requires the injection of a dye, and typically it requires hospitalization. We also saw that even in cases where the Doppler ultrasound might not be sensitive enough, because for example, for patients with diabetes like Hugh, you have medial arterial calcification and you have higher tolerance to pain. So the first one, the calcification, is spoiling the results from the Doppler ultrasound or from other non-invasive methods like the 𝐂𝐸-index. But Kelvin can still be very sensitive and detect anomalies in the blood supply. It's also very efficient to be used for evaluation of therapy. So before and after, for example, revascularization. Here, by example, you can see something that is pretty rare. It's finger ischemia. It's not as common as the lower extremity ischemia. But again, before and after the stenting, you can see significantly easier the difference between both conditions and between both states. Also, implicitly, problems in the upper part of the body, in the vascular system, for example, the aorta, can give its footprint on how your legs look like on a thermal imaging. Something that has actually been super impactful in terms of discovery is that even conditions related to ischemic stroke can be detected pretty rapidly and non-invasively applying this paradigm. So all these discoveries basically encouraged us to start to deepen our the focus of Kelvin Health to be a device that is super accessible, non-invasive, rapid to use, non-specialist dependent, which is very important because depending on the healthcare system and the availability of angiologists and vascular specialists, it might be very hard to get to one. So it can be used as frequently as needed, it can be used before, during, even, and after therapy, and it can be used for follow-up monitoring, which is again super important because we want to detect if the problem is recurring after some time. Just to visualize a little bit of the alternative patient journey, the Kelvin one is on the bottom. It can basically assist in the triage process and throw out the need for doing other non-invasive methods that are not as specific in terms of sensitivity and specificity. And also, it can reduce the need to do angiography when it's not needed, because the current statistics show that more than 30% of the angiographies, the extra angiographies that are done, have actually been unneeded, and they're quite risky for the patient. So it kind of enabled the paradigm of value-based healthcare, where we don't want to go neither for undercare nor for overcare of the patient. 14 months ago, actually, was the moment when we focused that much on vascular pathology, and we started collaboration with multiple hospitals, currently working with 5 and adding 7 more. And we collected data from more than 350 patients, more than 2,400 thermal images, and we saw super high specificity and sensitivity when we need to basically do triage between a vascular problem and not a vascular problem in the lower extremity. We're currently extending this to a multi-site clinical trial and going for FDA approval in the beginning of next year. Something that actually excited us a lot is that because our background is technical, as I briefly mentioned in the beginning, we're very much in image analysis and artificial intelligence. But we brought the expertise of medical experts, and especially when we talk about vascular pathology, they literally got more excited than us about the application of this whole thing in the patient journey and in their clinical process. Our team is consisting of specialists in the area of ML, machine learning, and image recognition, more than 12 years of experience right now, and as I said, medical specialists and people for regulatory and business development matters. We actually witnessed the second coming of visual AI, because I don't know how many of you have been familiar with that, but computer vision and AI have been on the first rise in the 90s. There has been a lot of disappointment. And we saw something similar with thermography. It has been popular in the 70s and in the 80s, but not in an automated way and not with the precision and the mobility that we have right now. And we believe that now we can witness, in a way, the second coming by coupling thermography, mobile thermography, and AI on the other hand. Of course, the end goal, as we talk about healthcare and the very complex healthcare system, is to provide value for all the different stakeholders, but ultimately for the patients, which I believe each one of us is a patient, or we have patients in our families. So all of us believe this, I believe that all of us deserve the safety and the quality of life to be happy with their health. So, if you also believe that a true missionary organization should positively affect the lives of hundreds of millions of people, we're happy to meet and to discuss how we can join forces and help prevent the suffering of patients together. Thank you.